Welcome everyone to another trailer to film. Here in this review, I take 3 scenes from the trailer and I talk about it. That's it. And here we're going to talk about Detective Pikachu. I do kind of want to apologize for this review being late. Probably shouldn't even be doing it considering everyone else's opinions are already out for this weekend. You know what you're going to see, and I'm just one more person adding to the proceedings of not really saying much difference. But I would like to start off to say that while I wasn't the most hardcore fan, I did get pretty obsessed with it when it was in its, inception and in baby ages. The first 150 Pokemon were always favorites for me. I loved them all. Even Mew, who was the 151st Pokemon, I adored every bit of it. I played the games for the most part, the Game Boy games, other various things, even watched the cartoon series and watched the first 3 films. Could never get into the 4th one though. But I grew up in the 90s with this stuff and it was very much a treasure for me. So with this movie, I was more or less floored by the fact that they're even making a movie about Pikachu, of all things, the most iconic character there is, and I rather enjoyed the approach they took. Excited they took it in a direction I think that would help audiences who have nothing to do with this franchise, this entire cultural phenomenon of 800 Pokemon or so, to say, hey, we're going to make a movie that you can even watch. And it's by pretty much only giving you like 50 of those Pokemon that you need to see. You're like, oh, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? Oh, that's what Google's for. But nevertheless, you don't really need to know what they are, is what they do. And that's actually really, really cool. But I'd say if there's a gripe, they throw it all at you at once. There's a scene where there's over 50 for sure in a city sweeping shot, and you're just like, wow, that's a lot of creatures. But you're going to have a lot of fun with the Easter eggs. But if I'm going to review this, I'm going to tell you which trailer I'm going to choose, and I'm going to have to go with the second trailer because I found it the most enticing when it came to the scenes conveyed. We'll start with the first scene that I thought was probably going to be the most interesting scene to watch in this movie, and that is...
Stop talking! You're a hallucination!
You're a hallucination.
So there's a lot to comment here. But I basically was hoping the entire film wasn't going to be relying on Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu and his performance, while the plot vaguely made its through to the end. Sadly, it does that. It does that while the story makes its beat for beat benchmarks in this mystery. But with that said, Ryan Reynolds is always a welcomed addition to any film he plays in. It's like he carries the weight of everything and he just kind of walks around going, yep, no, come on guys, I got this, it's all good. He has the perfect voice and he will always add more to the proceedings with his on-point sense of humor. So just to kind of dive into the plot here for a second, it's basically about Justice Smith's character, Tim, dealing with the alleged death of his father, Harry, and it's more or less... he's kind of estranged from him, Tim is, by choice. And arriving in Rhyme City, he comes across Pikachu, whom only he can understand, and Pikachu was actually Harry's partner, and all that stuff. So they embark on this quest to find Tim's father, if he's alive, and trying to figure out what he was involved in. And all in all, it's a decent plot, and in case if anything does happen, this franchise can grow. You can see that this is where it started, and then it expanded into so much more. And with this scene, I really feel like this is where things really kicked off. The next scene that stood out to me was...
Get me the hell out of here!
Okay, so, little thing you need to know about me when it comes to Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon, by far, hands down, is Charizard. Charmander and Charmeleon are great, don't get me wrong. I think Charmander is cute, and Charmeleon is like that preteen, still wanting to be adult, but still wanting to be a kid and just confused in the middle. But it was always the final form I always loved. There is a story about obtaining the card, Charizard, that I'll have to get into later. Maybe another time. Wait a second. Maybe a spoiler review. Maybe. Either way, I was really excited to see this because we finally get to see Charizard in action. He was menacing. He was, sadly, used as a plot device, but he was basically filler for a bigger situation afoot. But this paved the way for the stakes. Now, was the stakes huge? No. But it allowed the scope of this movie to be whatever it wanted to be. And this was definitely a fun sequence. And of course, with Ryan Reynolds being a completely lovable doof.
Hey, bud, what are you doing?
I can't do it when people are watching.
I seriously laughed at that part and a lot of parts in this movie. I wasn't expecting to laugh as much as I did. Now, for the final scene, I have a bit of a toss-up between one and the other and what I wanted to comment on, so I guess I'm doing 4 scenes. But kind of giving you a lightning round. Pun intended.
That's a twist. That's very twisty.
So with the mountain thing, I was just curious what was going on there and why was it happening. Once I found out, there were a lot of questions than answers. But I mean, it was a wonder for a good 30 seconds, and then I was like, okay, all right, well that's good. I know why that was happening. What? But with Mewtwo. Let me just say this. It was literally a blast from the past as this film opened up with very nearly the same way it did in Pokemon the first movie. Heavily, heavily nostalgic. Wonderful. But with the inclusion of Mewtwo, that as awesome as it was, this is where I kind of have to make a small gripe about the film. And it has to do with the overall film's pace and its final act. There are moments where things just kind of happen without a dramatic build-up that I think the film needed. Enough to wrap up people in the moment and get things going. But I think the worst of it was the point where you can't quite feel into it if it just kind of feels run-of-the-mill, like, okay, this is where this thing is supposed to happen, and there it goes. All right, yeah. But there's no, like, okay, yeah, boom, gotcha. But it's nothing too bad. I think the third act kind of comes up out of nowhere, honestly, and started happening and unfolding before you. And I'm just like, hang on a second, come back. Don't end yet. All right, guys and gals, in the end, I had a blast with this movie. It was fun. It was funny. Me and my girl, we were just kind of like geeking out to everything that we saw on the screen. Like, oh, they put that one in there. Oh, look at that. And it was like, it was enjoyable. You don't have to be a lover of the games or the cartoons or the card game. Nevertheless, some knowledge may help, but even if you don't, it's still fun. And one small departure, I will say that there's from the original idea and concept of the Pokemon saying their names as a form of communication, we have Bulbasaur. Yeah, of all the creatures, I'm talking about the very first Pokemon on the list. And they have him in there in this scene. Usually you'd hear him say in the cartoon, Bulbasaur! And that's just how he sounded. But here in the film, he doesn't say his name. He just makes little chirps and baby-like noises. And it was like the one departure that I don't think I have a gripe with, because that was the single most cutest thing ever. And probably the most emotional part of the film, too. For that, I loved Detective Pikachu and would own it on Blu-ray. So, Detective Pikachu, what did you think of it, guys? I'd love to talk with you about it. If you have a second, of course. Let me know down in the comments. Be kind, be reasonable, and let's talk. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new here, I do movie and TV show reviews. Check out those if you are interested, and be sure to turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything. Follow me on Twitter for all the updates and thoughts on various matters. Check out the description box for more, and I hope you all have a fantastic and wonderful day. Don't forget to like, comment, and